And thanks for staying with us. We turn our attention to economic developments in Sub-Saharan Africa. The region is showing signs of a stronger economic recovery, with the World Bank upgrading its regional growth forecast to 3.8% for 2025, up from 3.5% earlier this year. According to the World Bank's Africa Pulse report, the revised outlook reflects a shift towards greater macroeconomic stability in several African economies. Inflation has fallen across much of the region, with the median rate now below 4%, giving policymakers room to cut interest rates and support economic activity. At the same time, foreign exchange pressures are easing, especially in countries like Ethiopia, Nigeria, and Ivory Coast. These three major economies have seen their outlooks revised upward, helping to drive the regional forecast higher. Real incomes are also improving, boosting household spending and investment confidence. But despite the optimism, the recovery is fragile. The region still faces high debt burdens, uncertain trade policies, and a youth employment crisis that's already sparking unrest in countries like Kenya, Nigeria, and Madagascar. The World Bank is urging governments to prioritize formal job creation, improve the business environment, and support small and mid-sized enterprises. As Sub-Saharan Africa begins to emerge from a decade of economic shocks, this recovery offers a window of opportunity, but only if it's matched with smart policy, fiscal discipline, and an urgent focus on creating sustainable jobs for the region's fast-growing youth population. Financial analyst Mukhtar Mohammed joins us on the What Now to unravel what this latest forecast means for the region. Good to have you join us.
Thank you, Precious. My pleasure.
I mean, what do you make of the upgrade for Africa? It just doesn't, I know that some countries seem to have done well in terms of their GDP, but for a lot of people, it's not making sense, especially when you compare that with their reality. And I just want to get to your reaction to that.
Well, Precious, it might not make sense if you compare it to reality. But the fact of the matter is that when you look at what some of those things that they just spoke about, actually has stabilized. You look at the exchange rate, you look at inflation easing, and then you look at also the cut in interest rate that we've experienced from the central banks of both Ethiopia, Kenya, and Nigeria. So you can't but agree with some of what they've said. Yes, the reality on ground is that we are not seeing the kind of result commensurate to what they are telling us we are experiencing. But I can tell you, when you look at economic variables, when they tell you this, doesn't mean that you see the impact immediately, because we did not get here overnight. But you will see the impact in terms of consumer goods, in terms of price index. You can realize that a lot of Nigerians can afford something at a stable price, because before now we talked about hyperinflation. You talk about uncertainty in monetary policy. You talk about uncertainty in terms of FX volatility. But you agree with me that a lot of those things have stabilized. And what you're seeing now, you've seen a lot of investors planning to come to Nigeria, Kenya, and Ethiopia. Those are the first pointer to an economy that is recovering. After that, you see those investors begin to establish plans, and then those plan to expand, and then you deal with the area of job creation and others. So it's a journey. We didn't get here overnight, like I always say. I don't believe that we could get over it overnight, but we can relatively see stability in price. We can see also exchange rate stability. But again, there's still a long way to go in the area of job creation, like you said, youth unrest, businesses growing at the rate that we all expect them to grow.
So in Kenya, we saw a protest recently, also in Nigeria as well. And that's why, I was saying that it's not making sense to a lot of people. But the government here in Nigeria has said over and over again that its policy reforms are yielding results, and perhaps this is for them victory and a confirmation of what they have been saying. But just speak to the factors, responsible for this growth, because we understand that whilst, it is not Uhuru yet, whilst there's celebration, it is still very fragile. And I want you to speak to the factors and how government can consolidate on that.
Well, Precious, the most factor that you see is the stability that we've seen in exchange rates. And we need to consolidate on that. And we've seen that continue. That also is largely driven by the weaker dollar. The dollar has been in its weakest term for the past 10 years, the lowest in 10 years to other currencies. So definitely that has also helped. If you look at the country Nigeria, oil output has also improved, even if price is lower than what you get your benchmark price. But when you look at investor confidence, you can see a lot of portfolio investors are coming into Nigeria now because of the stable exchange rate. You can see that diaspora remittance also have improved, and this has also helped stabilize rate. You can see the retail sector of the FX market, which used to be the most volatile, seems to be the most stable now. You see price keep going down. For a country like Nigeria, what has really driven inflation has been the exchange rate. And since the exchange rate is coming down, you are seeing inflation comes down. And that is expected to continue for a while, because if you look at our FX reserve, we've seen that we improved it, the highest we've had for the past 6 years. And so that also is giving confidence why I think we'll continue to see the kind of result we are seeing going forward. Though there could be challenges, which could be physical side in terms of bringing down households' expenditure, whereby implementing earnings and also creating the environment to create jobs so that you have a lot of people will now have jobs. Because again, if you look at these three economies that we are talking about, Ethiopia, Ivory Coast, and Nigeria, they are a consuming-driven economy. And once their citizens cannot consume, it also have a negative impact on the informal sector, which is the largest driver of growth, not really necessarily growth, but employment. So we need to make sure we are able to create stability for household income to improve. Once household incomes improve, then we'll begin to get consumer participation. Once consumer participation improve, then you begin to see growth and creation of jobs, because that means a lot of companies now will expand.
I know that you've started speaking on that in terms of ensuring that consumer income increase or household income increases. But I wanted to also ask, at what point we would start seeing this gain trickle down, especially to, because for a lot of people, it is food, it is transportation, it is house rent, that's what matters to them. And so how soon can we start seeing that trickle down? Or is that something more that the government should do before it starts to trickle down?
Precious, I wish I have a crystal ball here to see how soon it is. But I can tell you that we'll get there sooner than we think. Why am I saying that again, whether I have the crystal ball here? Like I said, we need to see physical side, because what we've seen thus far, especially in the text of Nigeria, is largely driven by the monetary policy. So we need to see physical side, begin to implement policy that will drive job creation, that will create a conducive environment, that will bring down expenditure in household. And those are things that should be done through government policy. Why have we not seen cost of food come down? Because of insecurity. It has come down, but not like we want, because again, if you look at a country like Nigeria, the food baskets of the nations, most of these cities are still suffering from banditry, terrorism. So farmers are not able to go to farm. Then you see the infrastructure also a major challenge. If you look at the case of Kenya, you realize that Kenya also is dealing with insecurity in the area of tourism, which happen to provide more jobs for their citizens, especially because of Al-Shabaab militants attacking those areas. If you look at Ivory Coast also is dealing with political turmoil, one area or the other, and also they have the cocoa disease that happened early in the year. Okay, that is also impacting, and those are what the physical side need to deal with. So if I'm sitting here looking at what I've seen, if the physical side is able to bring up structures that could help grow the economy, we could be saying the next 6 to 1 year, we might experience the kind of real stability that will trickle down to the average Nigerian, especially in the area of job creation. Because once this business are stable, cost of funding has gone down because of cut of interest rate, they will begin to expand, and then they will need more hands. And once consumer participation has improved, that means a lot of goods will come here with the stability in the exchange rate. then companies will also need to expand and employ more people.
Well, a lot to talk about, but we do have to leave it there. It's always a pleasure to have your brilliant analysis on the program. Financial analyst Mukhtar Mohammed, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Precious. My pleasure.